The legalization of medical marijuana is greatly impacting our country today, especially here in Connecticut. Connecticut's newly proposed budget will place a tax and regulation on marijuana for adult use. Also, the majority of Connecticut, as of now, is in favor of legalizing recreational marijuana. With medical marijuana on the rise, many people have differing opinions on whether or not a federal law should be passed legalizing medical marijuana.
Don't do too much. You're going to be asleep all afternoon. You know what you should do?
No.
Don't try to communicate. Just relax. See what happens.
We know from animal experiments that the endogenous cannabinoid system is very important in regulating motor activity, that very type of activity that is impaired in Parkinson's disease. From animal experiments, we also know that boosting certain branches of the endocannabinoid system is helpful in relieving symptoms of Parkinson's. Finally, from anecdotal information, we know that certain patients who smoke marijuana experience relief of their symptoms.
I think you're calmed down.
So quickly.
Isn't that amazing?
He used just a single drop, and his hands afterwards were rock steady, and the dyskinesia left.
Your wife's coming back.
It works most of the time.
In fact, it's...
Oh no, film them.
Hi, I'm Kevin Cathy. We're doing an interview with, what are your names again?
Mrs. Quigley. Mrs. Regan.
Alright, so the first question, what is your stance on the legalization of medical marijuana and why?
Okay, you want me to go first?
Sure.
I mean, I think it's necessary for medical marijuana to be legalized because it's an important medication really for several illnesses. One is for pain and anxiety for cancer patients. I've heard it has a good effect for children with seizures. I don't really know any other reason why people take it, but there might be other, reasons why. Do you know, Ian?
I think there's other research out there that we probably have not been, privy to. But I do agree that through the right channels and for the right reasons, as Mrs. Quigley mentioned, that the legalization of marijuana would be appropriate, especially if it's through the correct medicine channels and that sort of thing.
Alright, do you know anyone who uses or has used medical marijuana?
I do. We had a relative that had pancreatic cancer probably about 5 years ago, and she was using medical marijuana towards the end of her life, and it seemed to really help relieve her anxiety and pain. She died, but I do know that it did help her.
I don't personally know anyone who has used marijuana, for the medicinal benefits.
What would be the benefits of the legalization of medical marijuana?
Well, I suppose it would be easier then for doctors to prescribe it to their patients, and then also probably research would increase if pharmaceutical companies knew that they could make money and also find different reasons to use medical marijuana.
Right, I agree. If it was legalized, I think it would be easier to obtain it, but it would also be in a more controlled manner. There would be a certain amount. There wouldn't be, maybe the improper use of it, but it would be more in a routine manner.
What, if any, would be the negative effects of the legalization of medical marijuana?
Well, I would hope that it wouldn't get into the improper hands of people who did not need it. As we know, a lot of drugs are out on the street right now that people should not have, but they do have it, and I would hope that wouldn't happen with legalization of marijuana.
Okay. Alright, this is Mr. Koss interviewing on the legalization of medical marijuana. What is your stance on the legalization of medical marijuana and why?
I'm against the legalization of medical marijuana. I know there are people out there that make claims that it helps alleviate certain symptoms and helps people with certain medical conditions. But I've worked in the pharmacy industry for 15 years. I know a lot about prescription medicines and drugs that are out there to treat certain things. And I think with all the available medicines that are out there, the claims made in favor of medical marijuana are exaggerated. I think it's a depressant. I think it numbs people. And I don't think there's any unique quality of medical marijuana that makes it as important or as effective as many people claim that it can be. So personally, I'm not in favor of it. I think it's bad overall for society.
Do you know anyone who uses or has used medical marijuana?
Medical marijuana, no. I don't. And again, as a person who worked in the medical industry for 15 years, I don't want to see anyone suffer. I'm not in favor of children or people who suffer from MS or Parkinson's or epilepsy or any of those illnesses suffering unnecessarily. However, I think taking a drug like marijuana, which there isn't a long history of its pharmacological effects, in other words, reliable sources have not engaged in testing it and the long-term effects of it, and just sort of throwing it out on society and claiming all these positive things. I think that's dangerous, and I think it's premature. So I don't have a personal connection to its medical application, but despite that, I'm still opposed to it.
What do you think would be some benefits of legalizing medical marijuana?
I don't know if I see any benefits for society in general. I see benefits for people who will make money off of it. Perhaps drug companies, people who open up clinics that offer it. Certainly there's a big market out there. The drug industry is huge. It's probably one of the biggest economies in our country. So other than the people who will make money off of it, I really don't see a lot of benefit beyond that.
And what would be some negative effects of legalizing medical marijuana?
Legalizing medical marijuana is legitimizing and trying to normalize a drug for which there's not complete testing. No one knows the long-term effects of it. Yes, people have been using marijuana for a long time, illegally, socially, etc. But it hasn't been the type of drug where people have taken, the government's taken and really studied it in a thorough way to know what its long-term effect will be. And I think that's irresponsible to simply say, let's throw it out there, let's start prescribing it for a whole variety of symptoms. Now, I don't know if you've looked at the list of illnesses and conditions that they allow medical marijuana for, but that list grows more and more and more for some pretty suspicious conditions that people have. So I think it's being applied too rapidly and too widely to a lot of different illnesses and conditions without a careful examination of the long-term consequences of that.
And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out what's in my head, and I